I never planned to own a healthcare empire. Growing up in a family of prestigious doctors, all I wanted was to help people. But life has a way of reshaping your dreams, especially when those closest to you keep trying to break them. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and according to my family, I'm the disappointment who couldn't hack it as a real doctor. What they don't know is that I'm the CEO of Horizon Healthcare Group, the corporation about to acquire their precious hospital chain. The irony wasn't lost on me as I parked my Tesla outside my parents' sprawling mansion for our monthly family dinner. Inside, my Uncle David, chief of surgery at Mitchell Memorial Hospital, would undoubtedly spend another evening mocking my career choices. My cousin James, the Golden Boy resident, would smirk from across the table, and my parents would sit in silence, their disappointment heavy in the air. None of them knew that tomorrow morning their hospital's board would vote on a merger with Horizon Healthcare. None of them realized that the failed doctor they loved to ridicule now controlled 37 hospitals across the country. I smoothed down my simple blue dress. No designer labels, nothing to suggest I could buy and sell their hospital 10 times over. The act had become second nature over the past 5 years. Let them think I barely scraped by running a small healthcare consulting firm. Let them believe I was nothing without the Mitchell name. The front door opened before I could ring the bell. My mother stood there, perfect as always in her tailored suit, silver hair styled just so. "You're late," she said by way of greeting. "Surgery ran long," I replied automatically, then caught myself. My meeting ran long. Her lips tightened at the reminder that I no longer performed surgery. "Everyone's waiting in the dining room. Try not to embarrass us tonight." The familiar scent of roasted lamb and family judgment hit me as I walked into the dining room. Uncle David held court at one end of the table, gesturing with his wine glass as he regaled everyone with another tale of his surgical prowess. "Sarah," he boomed when he saw me, "finally decided to join us? We were just discussing James's incredible performance in the OR today. Complex cardiac procedure. But then you wouldn't know much about that anymore, would you?" I took my usual seat at the far end of the table, as far from the medical discussions as possible. James picked up the conversation eagerly. "It was incredible, actually. The patient had a rare condition." "Speaking of rare conditions," Uncle David cut in, "how's that little consulting business of yours, Sarah? Still giving advice to real doctors?" The table grew quiet, waiting for my response. I could feel my father's disapproving stare, my mother's quiet shame. 5 years ago, I had walked away from my surgical residency at Mitchell Memorial, refusing to continue under my uncle's tyrannical leadership. "The business is fine," I said calmly, serving myself some vegetables. "How's the hospital's acquisition going?" Uncle David's face darkened. Mitchell Memorial and its affiliated hospitals had been struggling financially for years, though he'd never admit it. Tomorrow's vote on the merger with Horizon Healthcare was their last hope of avoiding bankruptcy. "That's not dinner conversation," he snapped. "Besides, what would you know about running a hospital? You couldn't even handle a residency." I thought about the documents sitting on my desk at Horizon's headquarters, waiting for tomorrow's signing. About the years of strategic planning that had led to this moment. You'd be surprised what I know about hospital administration. My cousin Emily, always eager to pile on, jumped in. "Oh please, you work with those small private practices, right? Telling them how to file insurance papers or whatever." She laughed. "That's not exactly running a major hospital system." "Still a nobody after medical school." Uncle David chuckled, raising his wine glass. Such a waste of a Mitchell education. The familiar words stung less than they used to. I'd heard them so many times over the years. During my residency, when I questioned his dangerous practices, when I reported his negligence to the board, who predictably did nothing, and especially when I finally walked away. "David," my father spoke up half-heartedly, "perhaps we should discuss something else." "Why?" Uncle David demanded. "She needs to hear this. Look at James, chief resident at 30, on track to be the youngest department head in hospital history. And what's Sarah doing? Playing consultant to strip mall doctors." I took a sip of water, letting his words wash over me. Tomorrow, they would all learn exactly what I'd been doing for the past 5 years. How I'd built Horizon Healthcare from the ground up, acquiring struggling hospitals and turning them into state-of-the-art facilities. How I'd revolutionized patient care while maintaining profitability. "Tell me, Sarah," James said with fake concern, "do you ever regret giving up? Walking away from real medicine?" I met his gaze steadily. No, James. I don't regret walking away from toxic leadership and dangerous practices. I don't regret choosing to help patients in a different way. Toxic leadership. Uncle David's face turned red. I made you. Everything you know about surgery, you learned from me, including how to falsify post-op reports. I asked quietly, how to rush procedures to boost numbers, how to silence nurses who report mistakes. The table fell silent. These accusations weren't new. I'd raised them during my residency, filed formal complaints that mysteriously disappeared. But no one in the family ever discussed them openly. You dare, Uncle David started, but my mother cut him off. Sarah, if you're just going to dredge up ancient history, perhaps you should leave. I looked around the table at my family. Uncle David, the prestigious surgeon who prioritized his reputation over patient safety. James following eagerly in his footsteps. My parents who had chosen silence over support. Tomorrow, everything would change. Ancient history has a way of catching up, I said, standing up. Especially when it comes to hospital administration. What's that supposed to mean? Uncle David demanded. You'll find out tomorrow at the board meeting. I couldn't resist giving them this small hint of what was coming. The merger vote? James frowned. What would you know about that? I picked up my purse, ready to leave the suffocating atmosphere of judgment and medical superiority. More than you think, much more. Running away again. Uncle David called after me. That's what you do best, isn't it? I paused at the dining room door, thinking about the empire I'd built, the changes I'd implemented, the patients I'd helped through system-wide reforms rather than individual surgeries. I never ran away, Uncle David. I just found a better way to practice medicine, one that doesn't require compromising ethics for ego. As I walked out, I heard my mother's embarrassed apologies, Uncle David's blustering denials, James's confused questions. Tomorrow, they would understand exactly what the failed doctor had accomplished. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. A text from Marcus, my chief operating officer. Everything's set for tomorrow's board meeting. All votes confirmed. They won't know what hit them. I smiled, thinking about Uncle David's face when he realized who really controlled his hospital's fate. About James learning that his fast track to department head would soon hit a dead end. About my parents finally understanding that I had succeeded not despite walking away, but because of it. Perfect, I texted back. Time to show them what real hospital administration looks like. The Mitchell Memorial Hospital boardroom looked exactly as I remembered it. All mahogany panels and leather chairs, designed to impress rather than inspire. 5 years ago, I'd stood in this very room, presenting evidence of patient safety violations to a board that chose to protect their own rather than do what was right. Now, at 8:45 a.m., I sat in my car in the parking lot, watching the board members arrive. Uncle David's Mercedes pulled in, followed by James's BMW. They walked together toward the entrance, probably rehearsing their pitch to save the hospital from acquisition. If only they knew. My phone buzzed, Marcus confirming he was already inside with our legal team. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror, adjusting my crisp white blazer. Today, I wasn't wearing the simple clothes of last night's dinner. Today, I dressed like what I was, the CEO of a billion-dollar healthcare corporation. At exactly 9 a.m., I walked into the boardroom. The conversation stopped mid-sentence as heads turned toward me. Uncle David's face morphed from confusion to anger. Sarah, what are you doing here? This is a private board meeting. I smiled, setting my briefcase on the table. I know exactly what this meeting is, Uncle David. In fact, I called it. James laughed nervously. What are you talking about? This is about the Horizon Healthcare merger. Exactly. I nodded to Marcus, who stood and distributed folders to each board member. As CEO of Horizon Healthcare Group, I thought I should be present for this discussion. The silence that followed was deafening. Uncle David's face drained of color. James dropped his pen, mouth hanging open. The other board members shifted uncomfortably, suddenly realizing who really held their fate in her hands. This is impossible, Uncle David finally sputtered. You run a small consulting firm. You're not. Horizon Healthcare's CEO. I finished for him. Actually, I am. I've been for 5 years. Ever since I left the toxic environment you created here. I opened my briefcase, pulling out the final merger documents. While you were busy mocking my career choices, I was building a healthcare empire. 37 hospitals across the country, all operating under strict ethical guidelines and patient-first policies. The board chairman cleared his throat. Ms. Mitchell, perhaps you could clarify something. The merger terms we received are non-negotiable, I confirmed. Horizon Healthcare will assume complete control of Mitchell Memorial and its affiliated hospitals. We'll implement our standard protocols for patient care, staff oversight, and operational transparency. Uncle David slammed his hand on the table. This is ridiculous. You can't just walk in here and... Actually, I can. I pulled up financial projections on the room's main screen. Mitchell Memorial has been operating at a loss for 3 years. Your surgical complication rates are above national averages. Staff turnover is at an all-time high. Face it, Uncle David, your leadership has driven this hospital into the ground. James leaned forward, his arrogance cracking. But my position, my track to department head, will be reevaluated based on merit, not family connections. I met his eyes coldly. Horizon Healthcare promotes based on competence, not last names. The board members were already reviewing the documents, their expressions shifting from shock to resignation. They knew the hospital couldn't survive without this merger. Uncle David stood up, his face red with fury. I won't let you destroy my legacy. Your legacy? I laughed. You mean the legacy of rushed surgeries, of intimidated staff, of covered-up mistakes? I pulled out one final folder. Remember these? The incident reports I filed during my residency? The ones that mysteriously disappeared. He froze. How did you? I kept copies, along with statements from nurses, technicians, and patients who were too afraid to speak up while you were in charge. I spread the documents on the table. Would you like the board to review them now? The board chairman spoke up, his voice firm. I think we've seen enough. Shall we proceed with the vote? One by one, the board members raised their hands in favor of the merger. Uncle David watched helplessly as his empire crumbled. James slumped in his chair, his fast track to success suddenly derailed. Excellent, I said, passing out the final contracts. Horizon Healthcare will begin implementing changes immediately. First order of business, a complete audit of all surgical procedures from the past 5 years. You can't do this, Uncle David whispered, but his voice had lost its power. I already have. I signed the last document with a flourish. Oh, and Uncle David, consider this your 2 weeks' notice. Horizon Healthcare has a strict policy against administrators with documented ethics violations. As the board members filed out, Marcus began setting up for our transition team meeting. I stayed seated, watching Uncle David's world collapse around him. Was this your plan all along? He asked bitterly. Buy the hospital just for revenge? I shook my head. This isn't about revenge. It's about doing what's right for the patients. Something you never understood. James lingered by the door, his arrogance replaced by uncertainty. What happens to me? That depends on you, I replied. If you're willing to learn to put patients before prestige, there might be a place for you. But not as department head. You'll have to earn that, just like everyone else. After they left, I stood at the window of what was now my hospital, looking out at the building where I'd started my medical career. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Is it true? You own Horizon Healthcare. I typed back, yes, and now I own Mitchell Memorial too. Still think I wasted my medical degree? The response came quickly. We should talk. Come to dinner tonight. I smiled, remembering all the family dinners spent being belittled and dismissed. Sorry, can't make it. Board meeting with my other hospitals. You understand. Successful people are always busy. Turning back to the conference room, I addressed my transition team. Let's begin the audit. I want every incident report, every patient complaint, every staffing decision reviewed. It's time to show them what real medical leadership looks like. Over the next few months, Mitchell Memorial transformed. Gone were the rushed surgeries and intimidated staff. We implemented strict safety protocols, anonymous reporting systems, and merit-based promotions. The hospital's ratings improved, staff turnover dropped, and patient satisfaction soared. Uncle David retired rather than face the audit results. James, surprisingly, chose to stay and learn. Under proper supervision, without the pressure to cut corners, he actually became a decent surgeon. My parents tried repeatedly to reconcile, suddenly proud of their successful daughter. But their dinner invitations went unanswered. I was too busy building something they had never believed possible, a healthcare system that valued ethics over egos, patience over prestige. 1 year later, I stood in the newly renovated lobby of Mitchell Memorial, now the flagship hospital of Horizon Healthcare Group. The wall of past chiefs of surgery had been replaced by our patient care commitment statement. Uncle David's portrait was gone, along with the toxic culture he had created. A young resident approached me, clutching a patient safety proposal. "Dr. Mitchell, do you have a moment?" I smiled, remembering how my own suggestions had been dismissed years ago. "Always. Tell me your ideas." As she excitedly outlined her plans for improving post-operative care, I felt a deep satisfaction. This was why I'd built Horizon Healthcare, not to prove my family wrong, but to create an environment where good medicine could flourish. My phone buzzed. Another text from my mother. "Your cousin James says the hospital has never run better. We were wrong about you. Please come home." I looked around at my hospital, at the positive changes we'd implemented, at the lives we were saving the right way. This was my home now. This was my legacy. "Thanks," I texted back, "but I am home, and I'm exactly where I belong." Success isn't just about proving others wrong. It's about creating something right, something that helps people, something that lasts. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building something better than those who doubted you could ever imagine. And doing it not for them, but for every patient who deserves care without compromise, every medical professional who deserves respect without intimidation, and every dream that deserves a chance to become reality. That's what real medicine looks like. That's what real success means. And that's a diagnosis even my family couldn't argue with.